Welcome to our video where we're exploring tractors. Does size really matter? I'm Elizabeth Vaughn with the Small Farm Tech Hub at Community Alliance with Family Farmers. And we're about to visit farms across the state using different tractors or other earth-moving machines to learn the pros and cons of each model and to help you determine the best fit for your farming operation. It's time to get down to it. The age-old question, does size really matter?
My name's Corey Jones. We're at Mountain Bounty Farm. We're about 16 acres, all organic, mixed vegetables, standard tillage regimen. Our main outlet is our community supported agriculture program. We also do wholesale outlets to local grocery stores, as well as a few restaurants and one Saturday farmers market. So this is a Kubota M9540. It's around 90 horsepower. It's four-wheel drive. We primarily use it for our primary tillage, so subsoiling, rototilling, and other things such as flail mowing. We also use it to undercut carrots. For the subsoiling, we basically need a lot of horsepower because it takes a lot of energy to pull the shanks through the soil and to break up compaction, whereas a smaller tractor wouldn't quite have the weight or traction to be able to do that. The beds, our average length is 250 feet, but some of our beds are as long as 400 feet. This tractor is 90 horsepower. I think the cutoff is around 50 horsepower and up, where you go to category 2 hitch, and that allows us to use a bigger rototiller, so it's a wider pass. It can go a little bit deeper than a smaller tractor would be able to. It's pretty big, so if you're trying to turn around in a tight space, it can get a little difficult. At a previous farm, we had a big tractor, but we were much smaller scale, and I found that just getting in and out of beds sometimes was a problem just because of the turning radius. And once you have your beds prepped, it's hard to go back in with the bigger tractor because there's just not enough room. It has four-wheel drive that you can take in and out, but for the most part, we keep it in four-wheel drive because we need the traction. It does have a lot of ballast on the front already, but I don't think we have any implements that are too heavy.
Does size matter?
I definitely think it does, but it's definitely farm specific. If you're a smaller farm, I think you could definitely get away with a tractor in the 40 to 50 horsepower range. You don't necessarily need a 90 horsepower. But if you do want to do bigger implements, or you're just trying to cover more area faster, then I think that's where more horsepower comes into play. So this implement is our undercutter. We use it for lifting carrots. We use it for garlic, and we also use it for removing plastic mulch from beds that we use plasticulture on. Yeah, it has gauge wheels that set your depth so you don't go too deep, and you can adjust that. And it has these shanks that get sucked below the surface of whatever you're undercutting and lift it up, so it makes it a lot easier to pull out of the ground. 3-point hitch. It's all, they call this drawbar power because there's nothing attached to the power takeoff on the tractor, so it's all ground driven. Basically, there's no power from the tractor other than pulling power. So basic maintenance for this tractor, we try to change the oil about every 100 hours. The transmission and hydraulic fluid gets changed about every 300 hours. We are in a dry, dusty climate, so we tend to change our air filters fairly often. And if we don't change them, we at least take them off and blow them out with an air compressor. Yeah, that's it.
Hi, so here at Fortunate Farm, these are our two hydrostatic L47 Kubota tractors that we use here for various kinds of work. And I'm just going to give you a quick overview. So this one has a grapple bucket. It's got little hands that grab. You can use that for all kinds of things. And this one has the classic, the standard bucket. Hi, Schmeagle. So one thing that actually the crew didn't do last night, which is bad, when you're parking these, just tip the seats forward, check it out underneath. See, look, like this was mowing yesterday. There's sticks and stuff in there. That's a really important daily check, and it keeps you from having a wet butt in the morning when you sit on the seat. What I really love about the hydrostatic, among other things, is you're not gear shifting while you're trying to operate the bucket. So when you're doing a lot of operations with the bucket, either using the grapple bucket to pull out gorse, which is something we do here a lot with our invasive species management, or if you're using the bucket to move equipment around or do composting, it's great to not have to shift to go forward and backward. So we have a rocker pedal here. So it's the same pedal, forward, backward. It's pretty simple operation. 2 implements hooked up here. This is a flail mower, so we can use that for our invasive species management, taking down cover crop. Comes with a cat, always good. But it's also a complicated piece of machinery with a lot of moving parts and zerks that need to be oiled and things to take care of as well. And on this one, we have this old tiller hooked up, and we don't actually use the tiller in our crop production, but we do use the tiller on gorse roots. So when we're working on our invasive species management, we'll use the rototiller to break up the root mat of this really invasive plant, which we can then rake out and handle differently. So we also work with a 25 horsepower tractor, and I would just say the difference between the 25 horsepower and the L47 is just the amount of ground pulling power. The 25 horsepower can do just about anything you would need to do on a small farm. These next size up tractors just have the ability to pull more weight. And that's really important when you're doing ground driven operations, and also sometimes when you're doing really heavy brush clearing. The thing about these pieces of equipment is that they are complicated. Parts of them can break. They need to be treated with care. They're not like the kind of, old Massey Fergusons and stuff that I learned on that you could basically just beat up and run forever. These are machines that are complicated and need to be cared for. So every moving part needs to be oiled. You have these little oil intake zerks there. Those are important to keep functional. And you just want to do a daily once over and clean them. And anytime you get on or off a tractor, that's your opportunity to do maintenance. And it's important not to put it off. Another thing about these tractors that are great is that they have a particulate exhaust filter. So they catch their own particulate exhaust. So again, unlike the old Massey Fergusons where you had like a black smokestack in your face, very little actually comes out of these tractors, more than just like white steam when you start it up in the morning. And there's a filter inside the tractor that holds any carbon particulate that we can then take out and take for disposal. But the tractor does sometimes have to go through its kind of self-cleaning and reburning, because it will reburn the particulate that it catches. And when it's doing that, we just have to park it and leave the RPMs high enough that it can do that. You can delay it, but not forever. So that's another thing about these hydrostatic tractors that is an additional layer of operation. Doesn't happen very often. Once every couple hundred hours for 5 minutes, it's not a big deal. I feel like it's perfectly worth it to have less emissions, better environmental friendliness, and way healthier for the operator as well.
Hi, my name is Adam McCurdy, and I'm the Director of Farm Production here at Coastal Roots Farm. We're in Encinitas, California, and we're on about 17 acres of mixed organic produce, but we really have about 5 acres in row crop cultivation, and then we have an 8-acre agroforestry project and education gardens, farms and gardens throughout the property. This tractor here is our kind of our do everything machine. It's a 30 horse, right in the 30 horsepower range. It's a Kubota N3901, and it's very, very versatile in what we can utilize it for. Some of the key components to it with our kind of agroforestry aspect and the composting operation that we have is that we have this front loader on it. So with the front loader, we can hook up our bucket. We can also swap our bucket out for our forks that are parked over yonder. Another aspect of it that's really handy, Allie, if you want to follow me over here, is it's very versatile in its 3-point hitch setup. And I'll show you some of the implements that we can utilize on the tractor. But we've got our tow bars so we can tow trailers, and then we have our Category 1 3-point hitch. A couple of key things that are aftermarket kind of custom that we have put on here that really help with multiple users is this hydraulic top link. It just really helps to make fine-tune adjustments depending on the implement you're using and the contour of the land. And then also these sway bar links that are not the turnbuckle style really make it for quick, easy adjustment if you need to center an implement or move an implement off to the side. Some of the primary things that we're utilizing behind this tractor are our blanket harrow, our cultivating disc. Standing here in our equipment shed, I've got a couple of other implements that I'll show you that are Category 1 and we use behind this tractor. And again, this hydraulic top link, just very, very helpful to get fine-tune adjustment if you need a little front tilt, if you need to go shallower, if you need to go deeper. Obviously, you've got your raise and lower aspect here, but that top tilt is really, really crucial. And so here we have a nice spader, which we'll use. We practice a lot of minimized tillage. So even though this creates quite the disturbance to the soil, as many of you know, it's much less aggressive than a rotary tiller, even a power harrow. So we'll use this in some applications. Some of our applications are too tight. So even though we've got the small compact tractor, it's still a little bit too tight. Another really wonderful tool that we also have a smaller one that we run behind a walk behind tractor, but this is our flail mower. And so the flail mower, the 30 horse aspect of our tractor has enough to be able to operate beefy machines such as the spader and the flail mower. So that's really a testament to the kind of versatility of scale. And so this flail mower does a great job of chopping cover crop super fine. I don't know if you can really see much in here, but the blades are they kind of look like whale tail paddles, and it spins around like this, and it chops it into fine, basically microbial food, and doesn't leave like windrows like a rotary mower would. So this is another great tool that we use behind the tractor. You can see the variance in beefiness of the different implements. This is our digger bar. Picked this up just this last year, and it's been just fantastic. It's from Tillmore, and they've done a great job for any of you that are looking for kind of small to mid-scale or refurbished older tractors. They do a lot of parts that fit onto a lot of those older tractors, and this undercutter bar has just been fantastic for different roots and tubers. And then you can see, then you go scale way up, and here we've got just your standard A-frame that you can, with a toolbar that you can hook anything up to. And we use this one for our potato production. So you've got your kind of larger A-frame, smaller A-frame, little digger bar. This one's super versatile with hilling discs and shovels. And then you've got like your super lightweight, like a cone spreader. A downfall is that it's very lightweight. So very quickly you can have you can have your tires kind of lifting off the ground. And so one thing that we've done is we've put on wheel ballasts, and that's very helpful. But still, if we're going to be lifting heavy loads up front, that's going to be oftentimes we'll have to hook up an implement to the rear to just offer that counterweight. A few things that we absolutely love about this tractor, and again, we'll kind of call out the multi-user aspect, which really changes everything. If you're a single operator and you're you're using it for one thing, then that changes kind of the whole approach. But this one, in its versatility, and then the fact that it's multi-user, the fact that it has a hydrostatic transmission is super helpful. We're not burning out the clutch. Folks are learning how to operate tractor and learning very quickly with this. And you can also transition from your to and fro much quicker with your hydrostatic shuttle shift. Another thing that's really absolutely wonderful about it is, again, the front loader with the half cubic yard bucket and the forks. The limiting factor to that is it's got 1,000-pound capacity. So if you're accepting deliveries of fertility or anything else, oftentimes things surpass that. Grain, livestock feed, anything like that. So those supers come in a one ton bin. So that's really tricky. So we run out of capacity there. One nice thing is there's a higher lifting capacity in the rear, and there actually is a 2,000-pound capacity. But when you hook up forks to the rear, you have much less agility than you do with your front loader, and your ability to get different height and your tilt. It's small enough to where if folks aren't all that well versed on it, they can still hook up implements without much of a problem, especially with those rear sway bars that I was speaking of. If I could go back in time and get a different tractor, I might try to find one that has a little bit more beefiness and weight to it. Because even with the rear ballasts, it's a little bit tricky. I have operated a John Deere 870, which is also a mid-range kind of 30 horse, which is a good size to have on a farm the scale that we're at. The 30 horse is really nice. It doesn't have the big capacity, but it's also not so small that it feels like kind of a gardening homestead type tractor. And that John Deere was a little bit heavier in the rear, had a little bit more stability, but still maxed out at 1,000 pounds in the front loader. So, I really think as far as these mid-range tractors go, Kubota's done a really good job with the diesel engine that they have running in here, and they've done a really good job with the components. Does size really matter? It really does, because and finding the tractor that's going to be a one-size-fits-all is super, super tricky, because you end up with different needs, and those different needs are really, really tricky to accompany with other needs and getting maximum performance out of whatever it is you're looking at. So I think that for a scale that we're at, this 30 horse, it's still small. The length of the tractor isn't so extreme, even with the bucket, that you can still get into tight spaces. Another component that's really wonderful about this is the four-wheel drive component. We need that with all of our hills and the multitude of loading that we're doing and the terrain that we're covering with this. So we can really use this as an agricultural tractor and kind of as a construction earth moving tractor. So in that capacity, I think that finding your center of gravity, finding the size that's going to have the most versatility for you if you're not going to have the luxury of having multiple tractors. Now, if you have multiple tractors, that is luxurious, and you also run into other problems because you have more expenses in your maintenance. You have breakdowns, have different ways of fixing them. And so if you have a single tractor that can fit most aspects of what you're trying to do, then you can really learn the ins and outs of that machine and get really, really great at keeping it running smoothly, and also the operational efficiencies.
Hi, I'm Sonia Parati. I own and operate Coyote Family Farm in Pine Grove, California. And we've farmed almost exclusively with walk-behind tractors on our 2 acres of intensive production for the last several years. We brought in tractors at different times to help us disc and do kind of other primary tillage. And for the most part, we manage with a minimal till system where we do about once a year chisel plowing, which we've actually done mostly with the walk-behind. and then use an implement called a power harrow to do very shallow mixing and flattening of the soil. And I'm gonna stop and turn around and show you the machines right now, and then tell you a little bit about kind of the benefits and limitations that we've experienced. This is the Grillo that the farm owns, and it's got the power harrow on behind. And these are pretty much ready for some winter servicing. And then this is a BCS that our field manager actually brought with him from his previous farming operation. The nice thing about having two, you can see that this one has the axle extensions on it, and so it actually straddles our beds, which can make it difficult to manage, but it does mean you don't get any compaction from the tires. And then this one has the tires in. You can still run the harrow like that. We use this Grillo now primarily with a flail mower, which is just chops waste into tiny bits. It's a really easy implement for just about anyone to use. The harrow's a little bit trickier, but not too bad. The benefits of the walk behind are they're affordable, they're small, they're easy to turn around in small spaces, pretty easy to work on even for people without much mechanical experience or inclination, which is me. And also depending on where you buy the machine, you can get a fair amount of customer service to help you maintain and do small repairs. And so that's been really good and easier for me, at least, to get my head around than a full-size four-wheel tractor. That said, these walk-behinds do require a fair bit of upper body strength and can be hard for people who are short or just who aren't as strong in the shoulders and arms or don't have enough weight to put down on the handlebars to use certain implements. They can do a lot, but what you can actually manage to do is different. So like I said, we've run a chisel, so like a single metal shank. It was designed for the walk behind, but it's very hard to get enough downward pressure on it, especially in our heavy soils, to really do much, and it's just very physically taxing. And so in the end, we've had to rely on sort of whoever is the tallest and strongest on our team to get that work done, as opposed to a four-wheel tractor where it's just about the skill and experience and it's not as physically taxing. The other limitation is spreading compost. I know there are compost spreading attachments for these machines. It hasn't felt worth it to me with the amount that they can carry. In the past, we spread compost with just 5-gallon buckets that we would drive our little electric truck to the field. It takes a lot of time if you want to put on a lot of compost. That was a upgrade we made with a very small four-wheel tractor this year that we had access to, was letting that pull a single shank chisel, and also having a small implement called a back scoop on the back. Maybe I'll take a video of that after this, to just aid with, it would actually scoop compost out of the pile, and then somebody would still have to pull it off manually onto the beds, but it was certainly much more efficient than the 5-gallon bucket or wheelbarrow method. So this is a little tiny compact 20 horsepower John Deere, mostly just for mowing pasture, but we did outfit it with this implement called a back scoop, which has been really good for spreading compost. We actually welded on some sides to make it hold more compost. It lifts up with a 3-point hitch, and you just back it into a compost pile to fill it. Then you drive over a bed and rake the compost off. Someone stands behind the tractor. And so that said, these walk-behinds are still really valuable to our operation, but we're planning on upgrading to about a 40 horsepower, so a compact tractor, to be able to do some ripping, because that, again, in our soil type, we've tried doing like nothing of the sort or doing it with broad forks, but it is a very valuable process for us. Also, to be able to spread more compost at one time, and to have a spreader that is an automatic release where you're not pulling it with a rake. And then also to do some primary tillage, because we really haven't had the ability to do that at all. And although it's great to till less, we've found that having to either tarp for long periods of time or pull a lot of residue off of the field by hand is just not sustainable, and really kind of clogs up our operation during when we want to turn over ground to plant again. So those are the changes we're planning on making. Again, the power harrow and the mower are really valuable, and I think both pretty pricey implements for a walk behind. But I think for a small acreage, for somebody who is physically fit and pretty tall and strong, it's a good choice. Again, smaller people can run the machines, but depending on the implement, it can be pretty difficult. Thanks.
Hey everybody, my name is Kevin Cunningham, and I'm a farmer at Shakefork Community Farm here in Humboldt County on the Van Dusen River. We have 85 acres here. We're standing kind of in the middle of a 5-acre intensive vegetable garden that we manage, and I'm here to show you some of the features of our ox-powered traction system. This is a super advanced high-tech traction system that we have, and some of the main features that we have here is the fact that our main fuel source for this our traction system is solar powered lignified carbon and H2O. Now these are renewable resources that can be found on almost every corner of the planet. And another big benefit of our fuel source is that our exhaust, our emissions, are an amazing soil fertilizer. This is Thor. He is my nigh ox, and I've got Odin over here. He's my off ox. And another thing that they have, you can kind of see here, is we have a fully independent 8-hoof traction system. So this is even better than 4-wheel drive because we have 8 independent hooves. And another really cool thing about the Oxen is that we can do very intensive with our tool systems that we have. We can do kind of surgically remove and work individual garden beds. So behind us you'll see some of our vegetable crops and some of the cover crop that we have during the winter time. And what we'll be able to do is use these guys, and because of their unique hoof setup, they can walk right down the garden bed rows. So we set up our garden beds at a 30-inch bed top, and then we have these guys set at 42 inches on center. And so they actually can learn to walk directly down the vegetable pathways. And then we're able to do all of the work directly in between them. And so it allows us to flip beds mid-season, cultivate certain beds, and do all of the soil prep that we need to do in our low-till vegetable system with these guys. And they can go in places that no other tractor I've ever driven can go. So those are some of the pros. Some of the cons is that they do take daily maintenance. So we have to take care of them 365 days a year. They need exercise. They need, their fuel source, irregardless of whether we are working them or not. Luckily, for part of the year, we get to just turn them out into the field, and they get to graze for their fuel. I'd say another one of the major benefits of our traction system here is that these guys can actually heal. So if I end up coming short with a hoof issue or some sort of strained ligament or whatnot, I can turn them out into the field, and they do all of the work of repair and regeneration themselves. No tools needed, no manuals, and they are quite self-sufficient in that manner. Yeah, so that's a good overview of our oxen-powered traction system.
I always ask the missus this question. Oh, what about size? Does it really matter? She just always told me it's, not the size, it's how you use it. I don't know if I believe that, but, oh wait, we talking about tractors? Oh yeah, size is important.